I'll give it a few more minutes so that everyone comes and then we'll get started.
Everybody is here. From there, I told everybody to join here.
Okay.
Let's wait.
Yeah. For some reason, the dashboard said that the meeting has already started, but we were not able to get in as the host, and there was no link for us to join from the dashboard. So that's the reason we had to restart a new meeting. Okay. अन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं कृष्णचैतन्यमीश्वरम् नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्या प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधार श्रीवसादि गौरभक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयं मुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. We are in this chapter. It is chapter number 12 and it is titled The Birth of Emperor Parikshit. This chapter was spoken in answer to the question that was asked by Shaunakadi Rishi to Suta Goswami. After asking the 6 questions, the sages of Naimisharanya, after receiving their answers to the first 6 questions, they had 3 more questions. The 3 more questions they asked was about how the Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled and under whose inspiration it was compiled and how it was put together. Secondly, the question asked was about the birth, activities, and the passing away of Parikshit Maharaj. And they also asked the question about how Shukadeva Goswami came in contact with Parikshit Maharaj, though he was a great renunciant. So these were the 3 questions that were asked later. And to answer that, we have seen the answer to the first question was complete, which was how the Bhagavatam was compiled. But to answer the question about the birth of Parikshit Maharaj, there was a lot of prelude that was needed before the birth of Parikshit Maharaj, what had happened, right? That had to be conveyed. So they spoke a lot about how Kunti Maharani offered prayers, Bhishma Deva offered prayers, Yudhishthir Maharaj was despondent, and then we also saw how Parikshit Maharaj was in the womb of Uttara, how he was saved, and finally it was time for Parikshit Maharaj's birth. So in the 12th chapter, we started seeing the birth of Parikshit Maharaj, very, very beautiful chapter. We see how Yudhishthir Maharaj reigned very nicely. and the kingdom was in perfect condition, and everything was very opulent. And Parikshit Maharaj, the little child who was a great fighter in the womb of his mother Uttara, who suffered the heat of the Brahmastra, was about to arrive. Okay, so he was about to take birth, and there are these beautiful verses about how Parikshit Maharaj saw the beauty of the Lord. Angushta Matra Mamalam, very famous verse. Angushta Matra Mamalam Spurat Puratamaulinam. Apiva Darshanam Shyamam Tadid Vasasam Achyutam. Very beautiful verse about how Parikshit Maharaj saw the Lord, who was just one thumb high, and he was looking very transcendental, very beautiful. He had a blackish complexion. He was wearing a nice yellow dhoti that was looking like lightning. His head was decorated with a beautiful crown, and this wonderful form of the Lord was seen by the Lord. Not only that, how the Lord was decorated is also mentioned, and it says here that the Lord was constantly circling the child, trying to protect him. So, like this, the child was protected, and this protected child later takes birth. And when he came, all the zodiac aligned very nicely. All the stars were aligned properly in the sky, meaning it was a very auspicious time, and that is when Parikshit Maharaj took birth. And Yudhishthir Maharaj was very, very happy about Parikshit Maharaj's birth because he's having an heir to the throne in the future generation. The next generation, because many people had died in the war, including his sons, but now he had his grandson Parikshit who would eventually take over. So he was extremely happy, and he called forth for all the Brahmanas and the great sages to come and give blessings to the child. And as we all know, whenever there is a birth in the family, there is a lot of charity that is given. And of course, Yudhishthir Maharaj was a great king, so there was plenty of charity that was given, and all the Brahmanas blessed the child very nicely. And they started comparing the child to various personalities. So that is the section we are looking at, and we are in the fag end of this section, where Parikshit Maharaj is compared to many personalities, starting with Lord Vishnu, and then he is known to be a very first class devotee. He'll be very, very saintly. He's compared to Shibi Maharaj. He's compared to Ikshvaku Maharaj. He's compared to the Supreme Personality, Ramachandra. So, like that, there are multiple comparisons that are made for this little Parikshit who was just born. He's also compared to Bharat Maharaj, who's the son of Dushyanta, who was an empowered incarnation of the Lord, actually. He was invested with Lokapalana Shakti, just like Prithu Maharaj. So the sages, I mean the Brahmanas or the Jyotishas, they all say that the child will be as good as Arjun, and he'll be unsurpassable like the ocean. So they went on, and Prabhupada has given such beautiful purports to each one of these very long, elaborate purports. So anyway, after a lot of comparison is done, we are coming to the last part of the set of comparisons that is being done, and we are in verse number 25. So I'll read the verse and then we'll analyze the purport. Dhritya bali samakrishne prahrada iva satgraha ahartaisho ashwamedhanam vrithanam paryupakasha. Anyone wants to read the translation?
You can read, Mataji.
Mm.
Translation. This child will be like Bali Maharaj in patience, a staunch devotee of Lord Krishna like Prahlad Maharaj, a performer of many Ashwamedha or sacrifices, and a follower of the old and experienced men. Thank you.
Very good. So more qualities as mentioned of Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj will be very, very patient. He'll be a great devotee. He'll perform many Ashwamedha yajnas, and he will listen to the vriddhas, that is the older people. He'll listen to the wisdom of the older generation, which is very important, which many of us do not in this generation. So anyway, when he talks about patience, he compares him with Bali Maharaj. And we all know why. Bali Maharaj was very, very patient. when Vamanadev came to take away 3 pieces of land. And he was very surrendered. And he stood with folded palms as Vamanadev snatched away everything. He was extremely patient. And his grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, was a very staunch devotee. So when we talk about great devotees, we often think of Prahlad, right? So like Prahlad, he was very, very wonderful devotee. So in the purport, Prabhupada talks about these two personalities, Bali Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj. Bali Maharaj, we all know, he is one of the 12 Mahajans. Prabhupada says he's one of the 12 authorities in devotional service. And he did everything to please the Lord. He pretty much sacrificed everything, even himself, so that the Lord could be pleased. And he went to the point of even relinquishing the connection of a so-called spiritual master, Shukracharya, who obstructed him from his path of Krishna consciousness, from his path of serving the Lord. So even if it is one's guru and one's guru is telling, do not serve the Lord, we have to forsake such a person, because such a person is not considering our true welfare. So if a person is really considering our true welfare and is our guru, he will always encourage us to be in the service of the Lord. But whereas Shukracharya gave a different advice, which Bali Maharaj did not approve of. So Bali Maharaj, he was ready to relinquish the connection with a so-called spiritual master. And he came to the point of very advanced devotional service. And Bali Maharaj, he dared to give up everything for the satisfaction of the Lord. He's an epitome of surrender. We often talk about Bali's surrender, Atmani Vedanam, how he gave up everything in the service of the Lord. Now, this Bali Maharaj's grandfather was Prahlad Maharaj, and the grandfather was also a great authority in devotional service. And the stories of both Bali Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj is mentioned in the 7th and the 8th cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Prahlad Maharaj, 10 chapters of 7th canto, if you see, 7 chapters are about Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj is the hero of the story of Narsimhadev and Prahlad. Usually we think the Lord should be the hero, but Bhagavatam takes a different spin. In Bhagavatam, always the devotee is the hero, and the Lord just makes guest appearances. So we see in 7th canto as well, 10 chapters are dedicated just to talk about Prahlad Maharaj in various ways, and Nrsimhadev, he just comes for a few minutes and he's gone. So our real hero is Prahlad. He was a perfect devotee of Sri Krishna, and his father Hiranyakashipu was torturing him. We know the story in and out. All the devotees, they know so much about Prahlad Maharaj. So Hiranyakashipu was torturing him in various ways, though he was a tender child of 5 years old, and his mother's name was Kayadu. He was the first child of Kayadu and Hiranyakashipu. But this child, by the mercy of Narad Muni, he was a great devotee, because when Prahlad was in the womb of his mother, he heard about Krishna, and he was a great devotee, and he becomes a great authority in devotional service. And just for the sake of Prahlad, the Lord took a special incarnation, custom-made incarnation for one devotee. He came as Narsimhadev, and he killed this Hiranyakashipu. So Prabhupada says, Nrsimhadev was setting an example that even a father should be removed from the path of devotional service if he happens to become an obstacle. So when someone is practicing very nicely, even if that person is a very close relative, sometimes that person's relationship has to be taken off by the Lord, so that this devotee can practice Krishna consciousness very nicely. So the Lord is always our well-wisher. Whatever it may take, he will try to remove all the different attachments that we have, or all the different obstacles we may have in performing pure devotional service. Sometimes we are thinking, why am I having this difficulty? Why is this problem there? Why do I have this relationship with this person? So there could be so many different obstacles. The Lord will definitely remove our obstacles as long as it is favorable to devotional service. If it is going to help us in bhakti, he will definitely take steps so that we may remove that obstacle. Now, this Prahlad Maharaj, he saw the Lord face to face when he was very young, but the Lord wanted him to stay back in Sutala Loka and take over the throne eventually. and he got married and he had 4 sons. His eldest son was Virochan, and Virochan was later killed in a battle with Indra. But Virochan is the father of this Bali Maharaj. And this Bali Maharaj is again a very great devotee. So the history of Prahlad Maharaj and his activities is described in 7th canto, and that of Bali Maharaj, the grandson, is described in the 8th canto. So we see Parikshit Maharaj, patience. When you talk about patience, the comparison was made with Bali Maharaj. When you talk about devotion, the comparison was made with Prahlad Maharaj. So like that, I think that is also one of your short questions, if I'm not wrong. Different comparisons could be wrong, but this is something I vaguely remember. So you might have to list a few comparisons, like for devotion, like for example, the child will be like his grandfather Yudhishthir, or Brahma and equanimity of mind, because it says Pitamaha, the grandfather. The grandfather can mean Yudhishthir Maharaj, or it can mean the grandfather of all living entities, who is Brahma. So he's munificent, like the Lord of Kailasha Hill, Lord Shiva. Shiva is very munificent, right? He's very giving. And he's the resort of everyone, like Lord Narayan. So like this, there are so many comparisons. And if you see Subhodhini, which is a very good guide to study Srimad Bhagavatam, you can see how Prabhu has presented it in a tabular column. So you can go through that and meditate a little bit and see how these great comparisons are given. And that's how a great hero should be. Krishna also in his Vibhuti Yoga, he talks about all these different personalities and characteristics. So it's a nice meditation to keep in mind. Okay, so this was text number 25. It was a comparison with Bali Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj. Text number 26. Let's see what else was spoken about Parikshit Maharaj. Rajarishinam Janayita Shasta Chopatagaminam Nikranta Kaleryesha Bhuvo Dharmasya Karana. Anyone for translation, please?
Hare Krishna.
And
Okay. Shall I?
yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, this child will be the father of kings who will be like sages. For world peace and for the sake of religion, he will be the justicer of the upstart and the quarrelsome.
Very nice. So there are many Raja Rishis, great kings who are like sages. Kings who are as good as sages are Raja Rishis. And he will be like a father to these great personalities, meaning he will be even like a caretaker of great Raja Rishis. That will be his position. Okay, Janayata, meaning he'll produce so many Raja Rishis. That is his capability. He will take care of Raja Rishis. He will protect Raja Rishis. So if he's going to protect these personalities, then whom is he going to chastise? He's going to chastise the upstarts and the quarrelsome, because it's going to be the age of Kali. And in the age of Kali, everybody is quarreling, right? For the sake of world peace and for the sake of dharma, for the sake of religion and ensuring peace is spread everywhere, he will chastise those who disturb dharma, like the upstarts and the ones who are quarrelsome. So he's going to protect the righteous and punish the miscreants, just like how Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. And this is the role of king, right? When a king is there, that is his prime role. He has to protect the innocent citizens and chastise those who are troublesome. So that is what he will do as a king. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that the wisest man in the world is a devotee of the Lord. What a powerful statement. Such a nice statement it is. The wisest man in the world is a devotee of the Lord. The sages are called wise men. When we talk about sages, we say they are known for their wisdom. And there are different types of wise men for different branches of knowledge. So in this world, we say in the world of technology, somebody is very wise. In the world of cooking, somebody is very wise and very experienced. Like that, in different fields, we talk about different people being experts and very wise. But however, it is very important for the king or the head of state to be the wisest man. That way, everybody is taken care of. So, like that, Prahalad Maharaj, he was not just wise in one field, he was the wisest. And therefore, he was a great leader. And being a great leader, he was able to take care of everybody in the kingdom. That's why it is mentioned he was the maintainer of even the great Raja Rishis. That was his nature. And Prabhupada says, unless a king is this wise, unless he is the wisest man, he cannot control all the other wise men in the state, right? There could be so many wise men, but then if the king is not the wisest of them all, how will he control all the wise men? So, in this royal line of Maharaj Yudhishthir, all the kings, they were the wisest of their times. Dharmaraj, we say Yudhishthir was Dharmaraj. He was the wisest and he was the son of Dharma himself. So who could beat him in Dharma, right? He was so great. And his generation, from him, all the generations that came from him, they were also considered to be the most wise. And when he was born itself, it was already foretold that Parikshit Maharaj will be a very, very wise king. And such wise kings, they protect the populace in general. And also, they become chastisers of the upstarts and uprooters of Kali. Uh, in the age of Kali Yuga, there are so many people who are creating a lot of quarrel. There are so many quarrelsome elements, and all these people are chastised by a wise leader like Parikshit Maharaj. And how did he do that? We will soon see in the following chapters how Kali personified was attempting to kill a cow. And cow is known to be an emblem of peace and religion. And Kali was disturbing the cow. And that is when Parikshit Maharaj comes and chastises Kali. And Prabhupada also mentions the symptoms of Kali. How do you know Kali is present? Kali is seen in wine, in women, in gambling, and slaughterhouses. So that's why we have the four regulative principles, which everybody knows, and which we vow in front of our spiritual master. Refraining from wine intoxication, refraining from illicit relationships, refraining from gambling, and refraining from meat eating. So these places are the residence of Kali. And if Kali is there, it is going to be very difficult. Very, very difficult. Right? Already we are in the age of Kali Yuga, but we're trying to somehow escape the implications of Kali Yuga by avoiding the places where Kali resides. So we should try. That's why we take vows, and that's why devotees try to follow the four regulative principles so that we can avoid these ill effects of the age of Kali. So Prabhupada advises that the wise rulers of all the state should take lessons from this Parikshit Maharaj, how to maintain peace and morality, and we have to subdue all these quarrelsome people who engage in all these four illicit activities, actually not relations, illicit activities. So in the age of Kali, actually there is some license that is given for maintaining all these four. That is, there is some license given for drinking, there is some license given for we have seen that already, that sometimes there are prostitutes. There are some people who are going to break the regulative principles anyways. There is some license given. But at the same time, it is very important for us to understand that one should try his best to avoid these four areas where Kali resides, which is wine, women, gambling, and slaughterhouses. So the leaders, first and foremost thing, they should be very disciplined. So a leader like Parikshit Maharaj, he was very disciplined and he was chastising the people who were breaking these regulations. But in today's world, what do we see? We see that the leaders themselves are breaking these four regulative principles. So then what to talk about the followers? Here, Prabhupada, he mentions, he says, the state fathers therefore must follow the principles of become wiser by devotion to the Lord, by chastising the breaker of discipline, and by uprooting the symptoms of quarrel as mentioned above. If we want blazing fire, we must use dry fuel. If you're using wet fuel, will you get a blazing fire? You will not get. Blazing fire and moist fuel do not go well together. Peace and morality can prosper only by the principles of Parikshit Maharaj and his followers. So, if we are having kings who are themselves not following any regulations, then what to talk about the society? And if the kings are also not following regulations, society is also not following regulation, that means what? The entire society is inflected by Kali. Kali means quarrel, Kali means degradation. Yeah. So this is the power of Parikshit Maharaj. He will protect the great Rajarishis and he will chastise Kali. That is a prediction that is made by the astrologers. Then, okay, he's going to be a great ruler. We have seen lots of comparisons about his qualities, about his rule, about his character. But then, how will he give up his body? That is also a question that was asked by the Shaunakadi rishis. So that is what we are going to see in text 27. This prediction was already made by the astrologers. Takshakad atmano mrityum dvija putropasajitat prapatshyata upashrutya muktasanga padam hare. Anyone would like to read translation,
Hare
please?
Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji. After hearing about his death, which will be caused by the bite of a snake bird sent by the son of Brahmana, he will get himself freed from all material attachments and surrender unto the personality of Godhead, taking shelter of him. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Jai. So nicely Bhagavatam has mentioned, Mukta Sangha Padam Hare. It doesn't say Parikshit Maharaj was very attached to anything of this material world. It doesn't say Parikshit Maharaj went to heavenly planet. It doesn't say Parikshit Maharaj went to Brahmajyoti. Very clearly, the prediction made is Mukta Sangha. He was freed from attachment. Padam, position of the lotus feet of Lord Hari. That is the position he attained. He attained the lotus feet of Lord. Many people must have heard many different variations of Parikshit Maharaj's story, saying that he was very attached. He was trying various methods to escape from the snake. So then, like that, there are some retellings that have been told over a period of time. Things have been manipulated and presented. But we should understand Bhagavatam's ultimate verdict is that Parikshit Maharaj reached the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. I think Praladananda Prabhu has put a nice verse, 11:5:11. Prabhu, would you like to tell us about the verse?
Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. I just thought of putting this for reference about,
Yes.
these four regulatory principles, how the Shastra is giving us some permission in order to stop it and not to continue like that. So Prabhupada Maharaj also somewhere mentions this, so I just thought of sharing that. It's a good slok, for remembering like that. Loke vyavaya amismadya seva nitya hi jantu. These are the basic drives with which conditioned soul comes here for vyavaya. It comes for sex, and then the regulation is vivah yagna. Like that. So all those these are explained there. I just thought of sharing my very good.
That is true, Prabhu. Yeah. Thank you for telling that and adding that. Yeah, there is a regulation in everything. And like, for example, Prabhu also mentioned about it's not that we should not have any enjoyment in this material world or gratification in this material. Everything is provided, but then it should be with some regulations. We should not go over. That is the idea. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for quoting that. So, what happens after hearing about his death? Very clearly, it is mentioned by Takshaka. Takshaka is the snake bird who's going to come and kill him. And Takshaka, there is a story of how Takshaka wanted to take revenge in Mahabharata. but then somehow he misses the target of attacking Arjun, but then he comes back to take revenge of Arjun's heir, meaning a descendant of Arjun, who's Parikshit. And later we see Janamejaya, who's the son of Parikshit Maharaj, wanted to do a Sarpa Yagna and kill all the snakes. But then he was stopped and the Mahabharata was spoken. So this Takshaka Atmanaha Mrityu, because of Takshaka, his Mrityu happens. And he hears about it from the son of a Brahmana. Anybody knows the name of the son of the Brahmana? So, Shringi, yeah, Shringi, yes. So Shringi, because Shringi spells the verse, he gets to know that he's going to die through another messenger. And when he's ready to give up his body, he frees himself from matter because he's hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam continuously for 7 days. He frees himself from all material attachment and he knows where to fix his mind. He fixes his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord and he attains the lotus feet of the Lord. So purport, Srila Prabhupada, he tells us that material attachment and taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord go ill together. So if you are having too many material attachments, it is not possible to take full shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. So they don't go well together. And material attachment means ignorance. And what ignorance? Ignorance of the happiness that is there under the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. If we think the happiness in this material world is all in all, we are ignorant about the happiness that is there when we take shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. So the happiness that one may receive when he takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord is 1,000,000 times more than what you think this material happiness is. Bhagavatam gives the analogy of a hoof print of a cow or a calf. So the happiness in this material world is like the water contained in the hoof print of a calf. But then the happiness seen at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord is compared to a huge ocean. So devotional service to the Lord is definitely so much more enjoyable than what is there in this material world. And only when a person is matured enough, he understands his relationship with God, he becomes free from all material attachment, and he becomes eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. And Maharaj Parikshit, he was one such eligible soul. And not only at the time of death, he was attached to the Lord. Right from his birth, what to talk about his birth, even when he was in the womb of his mother, he was continuously under the shelter of the Lord. Okay, so basically the 7 days, because of the curse of the Brahmin, was only considered to be a boon for him. It was not actually a curse, it was a boon. See, from childhood, from being in the womb, he was always a surrendered soul. And the last 7 days, the last moments of his death is extra important for every human being. And those 7 days, it enabled him, because of this curse, it enabled him to prepare himself to go back home, back to Godhead. So, which means God is sending blessings even at this time. God is actually giving him protection by giving him a curse. God wanted to preserve his consciousness. Krishna wanted to preserve his consciousness. That's why Krishna gave a blessing in the guise of a curse so that he could focus completely on Krishna. Sometimes everything is taken away from us. And when everything is taken away from us, we have no other shelter but the lotus feet of the Lord. And we take full shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. And that is what the Lord wants. So that is the greatest gift that the Lord can give. Sometimes it appears that materially He's removing everything. But then when He's spiritually enriching us, we should take that opportunity and utilize it very nicely, like how Parikshit Maharaj utilized it. So Prabhupada, very beautifully, this is a lesson for everybody. All of us are in this material world and all of us are going through so many struggles, and yet we are in devotional service. Sometimes these struggles itself can be a big blessing, and the Lord wantedly does it so that we take more and more shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. That's what Prabhupada is telling here. He says the so-called warning of his death within 7 days from the date of the curse by the Brahmana's son was a boon to him, to enable him to prepare himself to go back home, back to Godhead. And since he was always protected by the Lord, he could have avoided the effect of such a curse. But by the grace of the Lord, he did not take undue advantage for nothing. He could understand this is a blessing. He could have counter-cursed, or he could have nullified the curse. He could have done so many things. Remember, he's the protector of great Rajarishis. He is the Palaka of all the great Rajarishis. He's a Rishi who's greater than all the Rajarishis. We spoke so much about him. He could have done anything. He could have avoided it. He could have done so many things, but he accepted the curse because he knew it's not a curse, it's actually a blessing. And he wanted to take the advantage of the situation. So Prabhupada's famous quote, he says, make the best use of a bad bargain. That is this material world. In this material world, actually, it's a very bad bargain. Very bad. This human body itself is a very bad bargain. But then we have to make best use of the bad bargain by engaging in Krishna consciousness. So like that Parikshit Maharaj, he made the best use of a very bad bargain. Caused to death. Such a bad bargain. But then he made best use of it. So for 7 days, continuously what did he do? He heard the Srimad Bhagavatam, that too from the right source. It's not that he was listening to some saptaha that was not authorized. He was listening from the right source, and therefore, because he heard from the right source, at the time of death, he got shelter at the lotus feet of them. So there are so many layers here. First and foremost thing, we should try to see curses as blessings. Utilize even curses in a way that we can engage in Krishna consciousness. And when we are engaging in Krishna consciousness, we should engage with full heart, like Parikshit Maharaj, 7 days continuously. He was willing to give up everything and engage in Krishna consciousness. And more importantly, when we are engaging in Krishna consciousness, we should take guidance from the right person. Right? Like how Parikshit Maharaj took perfect guidance from Shukdev Goswami. Only because he took guidance from Shukdev Goswami, he attained perfection. What is perfection? Perfection is attaining the lotus feet. So this was Parikshit Maharaj's life. He lived by example and he taught the entire world. Okay. Now we'll move on to the next verse. जिज्ञासितात्म यथार्थात्यो मुनिर्व्यास सुतादसौ हित्वेदं नृपगंगायां यस्याति adha kuto bhayam. So this is about him hearing from the son of Vyasadeva, and we all know who the son of Vyasadeva is. It is Shukdev Goswami. And where did he hear? On the banks of the river Ganges is mentioned here. Okay. So anyone would like to read translation?
Hare Krishna Mataji. After inquiring about proper self-knowledge from the son of Vyasadeva, who will be a great philosopher, he will renounce all material attachment and achieve a life of fearlessness. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Achieving the life of fearlessness. Akutaha bhayam. Achieving a life of fearlessness means in this material world, there is only fear. This material world is a world of fear. But if we are able to achieve a life of fearlessness, that means we have achieved perfection and we have gained released from this material. Prabhupada, he tells us in the purport, material knowledge means ignorance of one's knowledge of the self. Material knowledge means ignorance of the knowledge of one's own self. What is the knowledge of one's own self? To know that I am a spirit soul, I am a servant of Krishna, Krishna. To know I am the servant of Krishna, I am a spirit soul, I am not this body. Material knowledge is what? It is all body related knowledge, right? It means ignorance of the knowledge of one's own self. So if we really want to seek for philosophy, if we want to seek out for philosophy, what should we do? We have to understand the knowledge of one's own self. First, we should start with the science of self-realization. First, we should understand who we are. Then we should understand who is God. And then we should understand the relationship between God and me. That is what self-realization, God realization, all this is about. So without self-realization, any philosophy is simply dry speculation or waste of time and energy. So Prabhupada's famous quote, what is that? Philosophy without devotion? No, is only mental speculation, and devotion without philosophy is only sentiment, right? Something like that he says. So we should have both, perfect blend of both. So without self-realization, philosophy is just dry speculation or waste of time and energy. So this Srimad Bhagavatam, it is a perfect blend. It gives you the right knowledge of your own self, and it gives you so many details about Krishna. So hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, you can definitely get free from material attachment and enter the kingdom of God. And the kingdom of God is the place of true fearlessness, because this material world is a world of fearfulness. And just like how in a prison, people are always fearful. And as it is, because we are doing some mistake, we are in the prison. And then inside the prison, if you continue to violate some rules and regulations, then what happens? You continue to have extension in prison life, right? Similarly, in this material existence, as it is fearful. And then in a fearful state, we are doing more and more mistakes. We are breaking more and more rules of laws of material nature. And this liberation from this jail becomes more and more difficult. We get more and more entangled in this world. So if we really want mukti or relief from such anxieties, what should we do? We should take to devotional service of the Lord. And hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is the best chance given to us to get out of this anxiety of this material world. So Shukadev Goswami, who's the son of Vyasadev, he spoke to Parikshit Maharaj during this time of death, during these 7 days. He spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam that gave relief from all anxieties and gave him permanent happiness at the lotus feet of the Lord. And Prabhupada warns us that Srimad Bhagavatam should be heard only from qualified people. So even now, you may ask, okay, if in ISKCON so many of us are giving Bhagavatam class, is it all qualified? The idea is as long as someone is following the Guru Parampara, it is considered qualified. One may argue that you should hear only from 100% pure devotee. Yes, that is the best form of hearing. But still, Bhagavatam can be heard from anybody as long as we are following what a pure devotee has already spoken. So if we are all following Srila Prabhupada's books as it is fine to hear. But if we are concocting, if we are changing things, then there is a problem. If you're sticking to Shastra as it is, especially the Shastra that is given by great personalities like Shukadev Goswami, then it is handed down in Guru Parampara and it is coming out through the spiritual ecstasies of Srila Prabhupada's purports, then it is considered 100% bona fide. All that we have to do is repeat it as it is. But then Prabhupada warns us. He says there are some professional men, they are trying to make a profession out of Bhagavatam. They come and tell, we'll do Bhagavat Saptaha for the sake of money. So Prabhupada says such imitative hearing of Bhagavatam is a caricature only, and one should not be misled by such performance of Bhagavat Saptaha undertaken by ridiculous, greedy fellows to maintain an establishment of material enjoyment. Why are they doing Bhagavat Saptaha? So that they can earn a lot of money and enjoy in this material world and get more and more entangled in this material world instead of getting liberated from this material world for which Bhagavatam is truly meant for. So it is so important to hear from the right authority, hear the right knowledge from the right authority. Text 29. So this is how Parikshit Maharaj gave up his life and he took guidance of the son of Vyasadev, who is Shukadev Goswami. So, so all the astrologers gave all these future predictions, and then they were nicely honored by the king Yudhishthir Maharaj. So let's see that verse. Iti ragnya upadhishya vipra jatakato vidaha labda pachitayah sarve prati jagmu swakan grihan. Anyone would like to read the translation, please?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thus, those who were expert in astrological knowledge and in performance of the birth ceremony instructed King Yudhishthira about the future history of his child. Then, being sumptuously remunerated, they all returned to their respective homes. Hare Krishna.
Jai. So they are called as Jataka Kovida. Kovida means a learned person, a Pandit is basically a Kovida. Kovida is very well learned. And what are they well learned in? Jataka in astrology. So astrology is a science, it's a bona fide science. Maybe the people who are reading the charts are not experts, but you cannot say astrology is fake. Astrology is true, but the people are not properly trained today. In those days, they were very well trained. Like we see the astrologers who came to predict about Parikshit Maharaj's future, they were able to see so much that he will be bit by Takshaka, but he will go back to Godhead. They were able to predict so many things about Parikshit Maharaj. He'll be a great king, he will chastise Kali. So many things they said, and they compared him with so many great personalities. So he is a Kovida, he is an expert. But in today's world, we don't have experts. But the science is true. It is Upaveda. It comes from the Veda. So the science should be respected. It is true. Whether it works for us depends on who's predicting, whether they're predicting it correctly or not. And not many people are blessed with capabilities to predict. Even if they may be trying to follow some books and trying to follow some charts to make some predictions, it has to all be inspired by the Paramatma at the right time, otherwise the prediction will not come. So Prabhupada talks about it in the purport. That's why I'm giving such a big introduction to astrology, because Prabhupada also talks about it. So let's see what Prabhupada says. So he says the Vedas, where we get knowledge from. Veda means with, to know, right? So where are we getting knowledge from? All the knowledge we're getting from Vedas. Whether it is material knowledge or spiritual knowledge, it is coming from the Vedas alone. Was this Ishopanishad? I think the very first purport Prabhupada talks about Vedas. He begins the purport with Vedas. Vedas means to knowledge. And any knowledge in this world, whether it is material or spiritual, you get it from the Vedas. I think Ishopanishad only. He begins the purport in a very similar fashion. So basically, yeah, whatever knowledge you want, you will get it from the Vedas. But the perfection of Vedas, Vedesha sarve ahameva veda, Vedantakrat veda vedeva chaham. Now through the Vedas, what should you know? Yes, you can get all the material knowledge in the world. But then you should get the highest spiritual realization. That is the goal of knowing the Vedas. So these Vedas are actually considered to be guides for any civilized man in this material world. And as soon as we get a human form of life, we should understand we have an opportunity to get free from this material world. And who is giving us the guidelines? Who's helping us to get free from this material world? Since we have taken a human birth, and we come with a guidebook. Okay, so Krishna is very, very compassionate. He gives us a proper human body so that we can execute bhakti, and he also gives us guidebooks. And these guidebooks are the Vedas. And Vedas, they simply don't talk only about the goal alone. They just don't say, okay, Krishna, 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 you've taken a human body, just think about Krishna and perfect your life. Yes, that is the goal of the Vedas. But the Vedas are very compassionate. They are like our mother. So they also tell us about many things that is needed in this material life. We have to live in this material world. So the Vedas teach us what is needed in this material world and eventually how one should attain spiritual salvation, right? When we are in this material world also, unless we are a transcendentalist like Shukdev Goswami, we are going to be engaged in material affairs. There is no escape from that. You might all be fathers, you might be mothers, you might be husband, wife, or you might be, you have roles to play, right? You might be an employee in your company. So there are so many different roles to play, and there are so many bodily needs. So all this can be satisfied in a righteous way through the guidelines of the Vedas. So the Vedas are not only giving you spiritual knowledge, it is also giving you material knowledge. But then don't stop with the material knowledge. We have to aim for spiritual salvation. So the people who are studying these Vedas, they are called as Vipras. Dvija, by samskara, one becomes a Dvija. Dvija means twice born. Like the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas are called as Dvija. They are twice born. How do they become twice born? Through the sacred thread ceremony, they take another birth. Okay, through their guru, they attain knowledge. So they are considered twice born. Now, it is not enough if you are a Dvija. You should become a Vipra. A Brahmana, so-called Brahmana of today, mostly they are not even proper Dvijas. Okay, even the samskaras are not proper for the Brahmins, so-called caste Brahmins, quote unquote. Not everybody, some. So first step is to be a Dvija. Okay, you have your sacred thread ceremony and the samskara, you receive Gayatri or do all that. That is called as Dvija. But is it enough if you're a Dvija? You should become a Vipra. You should study the Vedas and become a scholar. Vipra means a scholar, a graduate in Vedic knowledge, Prabhupada says. Like we are all doing Bhakti Shastri and Bhakti Vaibhav. That means we're trying to become Vipras. We're trying to become knowledgeable. We also want to become graduates of Bhakti Vaibhav. So we are aiming to be Vipras. But is it enough if we are Vipras? We have to advance and truly become Brahmanas. Who's a Brahmana? Brahmajanati iti Brahmana. That means one who is trying to understand the supreme absolute truth, Brahman, the personal absolute truth, Bhagavan. He is considered a Brahmana. And greater than any ordinary Brahmana is a Vaishnava, because a Vaishnava is really not just worried about some Brahman realization, he is worried about being the servant of the Lord. So greater than the Brahmanas are Vaishnavas. So like this, there are different grades of people as they are taking up to the study of the Shastras. And this Vedas we just mentioned, it also gives us material knowledge as well as spiritual knowledge. Now, within the what is needed in this material world, there are two branches or Upavedas that is given, subordinate or subsidiary studies. One is called as astrology and the other Prabhupada calls pathology, basically Ayurveda. He means to talk about the science of maintaining the body. So via astrology, you can understand about so many things about what is the right time to do certain things. What is the future? All this is predicted via astrology. Generally, in ancient times, astrology was not abused like how it is abused today. For everything, we open up the horoscope and we are so concerned. But in ancient times, astrology was picked up only during certain situations, like if the child has to get married, child means what, boy or girl, if he has to get married or if he has to start a particular yajna, will that yajna be successful? For that, they would see astrology. What is the appropriate muhurta to do a particular project, especially Vedic rituals? And then if there has to be some karma done, then for that they would pick up the chart and they will see for this person what is the appropriate, like that. So very specifically, certain circumstances, astrology was picked up and it was studied by these great people. At the time of birth, for example, to make predictions of the child, definitely the astrological chart is cast and all the predictions are being made, just like how Parikshit Maharaj's predictions were made. Okay, so astrology is one important science, the Upavedas, or one of the branches of knowledge that is needed in this material world. And also pathology, Prabhupada says, which is the science of the body, like we understand in Ayurveda. He also talks about the department of military education, which is Dhanurveda. That is also a very nice science. And we all know how the Pandavas, they went to Dronacharya and Kripacharya to learn Dhanurveda. So these Vipras, basically, they are knowledgeable in the Vedas. They are also knowledgeable in different branches like Jyotisha, Dhanurveda, Ayurveda, and so on. In all these different branches also, they were great experts. And here Prabhupada, he continues to say that Brahmanas are the ones who are interested in spiritual transcendence. A Vipra may not be very interested in understanding the supreme absolute truth. He might just be involved in studying all this Jyotisha, Dhanur Veda or even certain Karma Kanda sections of the Vedas. But then a true Brahmana is one who is expert in spiritual knowledge. And the spiritual knowledge is called as Jnana Kanda, and above that is the Upasana Kanda, where we come to the point of Bhakti. And Vaishnavas are greater than the Brahmanas. Why? Because Vaishnavas are engaged in the loving service of the Lord. So Srimad Bhagavatam itself is a science of devotional service, and this science is especially dear to the Vaishnavas. So you can imagine there were so many Vipras who were predicting about Parikshit Maharaj's life, but Parikshit Maharaj was the topmost Vaishnava. He was only interested in serving the Lord. So Prabhupada gives lots of explanations about these different Vipras. He says among the Karmakanda experts, the Jataka expert Vipras were good astrologers, and they could tell the future history of a just born child by astral calculations, which is the Lagna. So at the time of your birth, there is one particular point that is called as the Lagna. From the Lagna, we see the 12 houses. So like that, from that Lagna, the chart is cast. So the astrologers would know this. Many of you must have known. You're all, I know many people are very well learned in this assembly. So such Jataka Vipras were present during the time of Parikshit Maharaj, and they were nicely gifted, because that is what the verse is telling. The verse is telling that all these people who had come, they were gifted very nicely by Yudhishthir Maharaj. So they were given nice gold, land, cows, grains, valuables, and so on. So like this, there is a need of Vipras in social culture, and the king's duty is to maintain them comfortably. So the Vipras are paid by the state because it's a big knowledge that they are sharing. They have to be well paid. So they are paid by the king very nicely, generously. So that way, this Vedic tradition can be preserved nicely and passed. That was what happened. Yudhishthir Maharaj, he granted a lot of riches and gifts to all these Vipras who came and made predictions about Parikshit. So another chat message, I'm trying to open it. Was it Prahladananda Prabhu?
Mataji, the Vipra word I heard from Subhadra Govind Swami, says Vidya Praveen. That's a short form of Vipra.
Wow, very nice. Thank you, Prabhu.
Just it is also like Sakra. Sakra is Indra's name. Satakruta, like that. So he fondly says that when Indra wants to put his initials, he puts Sakra instead of writing the whole name. So that's how I heard that word. Thank you, Mata.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, thank you so much. Before there was one point when Kirtida Mataji might know, we were so desperately trying to find the meaning of chakra. Okay. Why is Indra called a chakra? We were trying everywhere, we're trying to find, and one fine day, we were having a discussion with two other Prabhus who had come home, and I asked this question because they quoted a verse saying chakra, and I had this question for many years, and I asked, why is Indra called a chakra? And that is when they quoted Radha Govind Maharaj, and they said, Radha Govind Maharaj said, chakra means shatakruta, and when it's a short form, just like sometimes when we sign off, this is how Radha Govind Maharaj mentioned. When we sign, we just, if my name is, for example, my civil name is Preeti Srinivasan. So I put PS, my initials, right? So I put my initials and I sign. So like that, instead of saying Shatakritam, one who has performed 100 sacrifices, he just signs off as Chakra. That's how Radha Govind Maharaj apparently explained, is what I heard. So thank you for bringing that up. And since you hear a lot of his lectures, it is appropriate that you shared this. And it's very nice to also know the meaning of Vipra. Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice.
Thank you, Mata.
Vidya Pravina.
May I have permission to post some of the relevant slokas?
Yes.
I just like to share, because there are so many slokas which come when we come across Prabhupada Maharaj's purpose. There are relevant slokas in different parts of Bhagavatam. And I would like to share that because they come to mind when we discuss these kind of things. And if you see Prabhupada Maharaj's purpose, we see that he is putting so many slokas from so many different places and combining it for our benefit like that. So, because I have read this before so many times from 1988, I just put down the slok which comes to, in confirmation with Prabhupada Maharaj
Right.
purpose, then I put that like that. So, yeah, I was thinking if I could share that, will it be appropriate
Of
to do
course,
that?
Prabhu, we'll be nicely benefited, Prabhuji.
I
Thank you.
have read this volume 6 times from 1988 up to now,
Hari
verbatim. So that's how it can help us uh, to to correlate different parts of the sloka. I mean Bhagavatam slokas, and we can remember this. It helps us to organize our knowledge about Bhagavatam like that. That's what I was thinking. Thank you, Mata. Hari Bol.
Right. Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, Prabhu. Yes, thank you. Next, 30. Are we good on time? I believe. Okay. स एष लोके विख्यातः परीक्षत् इति यत् प्रभुः पूर्वं दृष्टम् अनुध्यायन् परीक्षेत नरेष्विह. Purvam Drishtam. He had already seen somebody in the past, and every time he looks around, he keeps doing pariksha. Is this that person I saw? That's why he's called as Parikshit. So, translation is, so his son would be famous in the world as Parikshit. Parikshit means examiner, because he would examine all the human beings in his search after that personality whom he saw before his birth. So when Parikshit Maharaj was in the womb, Vishnu came, right? The four-armed form of the Lord, Angushta Matramalam. He came and he was encircling. So this little child saw this beautiful form of the Lord in the womb, and once he came out, every time he looked around, he would examine everybody. Is that the person I saw in the womb? Is that the person I saw in the womb? So like that, he would examine all the human beings in a search. He's searching. Who is that I saw in the womb? He's searching after that personality whom he saw before his birth. Thus, because he's constantly examining everyone. See, as a baby, he was examining, and these people, the experts, Jataka Kovita, they were all looking at him, and then the perfect name for this boy will be Parikshit because he's simply examining everybody. So beautiful. In those days, when names were given, very meaningful names were given, right? Today we have Chinto, Binto, Monto, and all that. But in those days, every name had a very specific meaning, and it would somehow suit the child. They would examine the child and they'd be like, oh, this name suits this child, like that. So Parikshit Maharaj was given this name, that he would be famous in this world as the examiner, Parikshit, because he would come to examine all human beings in search after the personality whom he saw before his birth. So Parikshit Maharaj, he is very, very fortunate. He got the impression of the Lord even in the womb of his mother. And since then, he's been contemplating on the Lord, always thinking about the Lord. So if at all we have the beautiful form of the Lord fixed, that impression of the transcendental form of the Lord fixed in our mind, we can never forget that form of the Lord. So Parikshit Maharaj was very fortunate. After coming out from his mother's womb, he would simply examine everyone to see who's that personality he first saw in the womb. And he could understand nobody is as attractive as that person. So he was always in remembrance of that personality, and he always was engaged in the devotional service of that Lord. And Srila Jiva Goswami makes a very important point here. He says that every child, if given an impression of the Lord from his very childhood, certainly becomes a great devotee of the Lord, like Parikshit Maharaj. Today, if everybody is sitting in Bhakti Vaibhav class, listening, everybody has taken up to reading Srila Prabhupada's books, everybody has taken to the path of Krishna consciousness, that means at some point during our childhood, maybe when we were in the womb, or maybe when we were babies, somehow we have come in contact with either Harikatha, or we have somehow seen the beautiful form of the Lord, can be in a picture, in a deity, or whatever, and we have for 1 second been attracted by that. It could be the holy name, it could be Bhagavad Katha, somehow some spark of attraction has happened to us. There is some impression that was formed when we were young. And that's the reason why taking up devotional service has become easier as we have come to this age. So Srila Jiva Goswami says, if you give a small impression to a little child from his very childhood, certainly that person can become a devotee like Parikshit Maharaj. So we all have some hope now that we are at least in the process of Krishna consciousness in this old age at least. We should have more hope that when we are about to give up this body, we will somehow or the other fix our mind on Krishna. Prabhupada says, but however, there could be some people who are not as fortunate as Parikshit Maharaj to see the Lord in the womb of his mother. But still, the parents can do something. You know, even after the child is born, the parents can train the child's consciousness because the child is very pliable. The child's mind, the child's thoughts are very pliable. You can easily, especially you've seen, I mean, the teachers would know this, especially children, teachers who teach children. In our many congregations, we have different teachers who teach children. They teach Damodar, I mean, little children, say age group 2 to 5, and then they teach children age group 8 to 10, and then teens. Everybody will agree the youngest kids, that is age group 2 to 5 or 6, they are the easiest to teach because they are absorbing like sponge. They just absorb everything. And these samskaras are very important for the children. It's so important. We will not realize it at that time, especially when they are teens. It is very difficult to grab their attention. We'll find it very difficult. But the samskara will never leave them. Even in teenage, you must have heard 100 stories. I don't have to tell this. Many of you know this by practical experience of your own children, that during teenage, it is very normal for children to deviate. They want to go and explore the world. But if the samskara is given in childhood, they will definitely come back to Krishna consciousness. I think every mother will agree, or every father will agree to what I'm telling, that even though they may go astray, somehow or the other, they will come back to this path if the samskaras are strongly given, if the impressions of Krishna consciousness are strongly given in childhood. And Prabhupada gives his own practical example. He's so compassionate. He's giving his own example. He says, there is a practical example in my personal life in this connection. My father was a pure devotee of the Lord, and when I was just 4 or 5 years old, my father gave me a couple of forms of Radha and Krishna. In a playful manner, I used to worship these deities along with my sister. I think that was Bhavatarini. And I used to imitate the performances of a neighboring temple of Radha Govinda. Kids, that's what they do. They see and imitate. That's what kids do. And by constantly visiting this neighboring temple and copying the ceremonies in connection with my own deities, I developed a natural affinity for the Lord. You see, children in Krishna consciousness today, they all have their own little altar. And what is their altar? A bunch of dolls. What kind of dolls? Krishna dolls. And they really do arati to these dolls, and they really take care. They just imitate what the parent is doing. The parent is doing Mangal Arati, they have their own little altar and they do their own aratis, right? So Prabhupada says that my father used to observe all these ceremonies befitting my position. Later on, these activities were suspended due to my association in schools and colleges, and I became completely out of practice. This is happening in all the kids' lives, right? After 13, 14, they're completely out of touch. But then, in my youthful days, when I met my spiritual master, Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, again, what happened in Prabhupada's life? Again, I revived my old habit, and the same playful deities became my worshipable deities in proper regulation. It is not just the story of our child, it is also the same story of Prabhupada as well. Prabhupada also in his college days, he had other commitments. He could not focus on Krishna, but then he came back. Why? Because the samskaras are so strong. So oftentimes parents come up with this question, oh, my child is not listening, teenage problem, going away from Krishna consciousness. But if the impression is given by the parents very nicely, the child will definitely come back. Prabhupada says, Prahlad Maharaj also advised that such impressions of a godly relation must be impregnated from the beginning of childhood, right? From the age, you should give Krishna consciousness when you're very young. What is the use of giving Krishna consciousness when your legs cannot move and when your eyes cannot see? Yeah, there is use. I'm not saying there's no use, but if it is given in childhood, it will continue throughout life. Otherwise, one may miss the opportunity of a human form of life, which is very valuable, although it is temporary like us. So human form of life is very valuable. These samskaras are very, very valuable. So Parikshit Maharaj started growing up. So let's see, it was 31. 31. Ay. Okay. Sarajaputro vivritte ashashukla ivodupa apuryamanaha pitrabhihi kashtabir iva sonvaham. Anyone for translation?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
As the moon in its waxing fortnight develops day after day, so the royal prince Parikshit very soon developed luxuriantly under the care and full facility of his guardian grandfathers.
Hari. So just like this Rajaputra, who was Parikshit, he grew up very quickly, just like how the moon waxes. The moon slowly, from Amavasya, it slowly becomes Prathama. It just goes like that. It becomes a full moon, right? So that is the comparison given. Slowly, this boy started growing up under the care of his uncles, Yudhishthir Maharaj and others. And I think, can we do this? Yeah, we can go ahead till. Yeah, 33 was a big purport. I was very worried about 33 and 34. So I don't know, maybe we can just go up till 32 more verses and we can stop. Mm. Mm. Okay, I'll go to the next verse. Yakshamano ashvamedhena nyati droha jihasaya raja labdha dhanurdhatyo nanyantra karadandhayo. Anyone for translation, please?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Just at this time, King Yudhishthira was considering performing a horse sacrifice to get freed from sins incurred from fighting with kinsmen. But he became anxious to get some wealth, for there was no surplus funds outside of fines and tax collection.
Yeah, so Yudhishthira Maharaj, he wanted to perform Ashwamedha Yajna. In those days, Ashwamedha Yajna, Rajasuya Yajna, they were all conducted from time to time for the benefit of the citizens, for getting rid of sins, for the kingdom to flourish very nicely. So these yajnas were performed. But then these yajnas, they are very expensive. Okay, it's not easy. They are very expensive. And where do you get the money from? You can be like today's president and you can put lot of, you can say, okay, tariff, this, that, and you can do some heavy money collection. You can do so many things. But Yudhishthira Maharaj was not like that. He wanted to perform the horse sacrifice, but he did not want to take extra funds like putting fines and tax collection on the people. Already he was getting some money from fines and tax collection, but then he wanted to get some extra wealth beyond this. Okay, he wanted a different way. So that is when we see how he gets the wealth from King Marutta's sacrifice. And that's why Arjuna is called as, yes, what Arjuna is called because
Dhananjaya.
Dhananjaya, yeah, Dhananjaya, because he went and acquired the wealth. So he's called as Dhananjaya for the sake of Yudhishthira Maharaj's sacrifice. The purport, let's see. So as the Brahmanas and Vipras had the right to be subsidized by the state executive head and had the right to collect taxes and fines from citizens. So this is a king's right, okay? He can collect fines and taxes. But after the battle of Kurukshetra, what happened? The state's treasury was exhausted because battle is also very expensive. It's not easy. So there was no surplus fund from either tax collection or putting fines. So the funds were insufficient. There was no excess fund. He wanted to get wealth in some other way to perform the horse sacrifice. So he wanted to perform horse sacrifice because he had already taken instructions from Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev gave recommendations. He had already gotten approval. Now he wanted to perform the horse sacrifice. So what did he do? Tad abhipretamaalakshya bharato achyuta choditaha dhanam prahinam ajakrur udichayam dishi bhurisha. Anyone? Translation?
Can I read?
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Understanding the hearty wishes of the king, his brothers, as advised by the infallible Lord Krishna, collected sufficient riches from the north left by King Marutta. Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
This was Jai. So Lord Sri Krishna is called as Achyuta. So he's never fallible, cannot go wrong. He's given the right advice. He told him, don't worry, if you want excess funds, it is available in the northern direction, somewhere in the Himalayas. And King Marutta, once upon a time, performed a great sacrifice. Very, very great sacrifice, where even he had so much riches he had obtained. The demigods and all had come in person. They had come in person to that sacrifice, and everything was surplusly available. Everything was in gold. And they didn't know what to do after the sacrifice. People had taken as much as they wanted, but then, in spite of it, there was surplus. So they just dumped it there and went. Just like how we may dump some garbage, they dumped all the gold there and they went away. And Krishna, the Antaryami of all living entities, the one who knows everything, he advised Yudhishthira, there is a lot of gold up north there. I will show you. You can go pick up all the gold there. And with the help of Dhananjaya, Yudhishthira Maharaj acquires all that gold, and all this is there in the purport. So let's see what Prabhupada has to say in the purport. Maharaj Marutta, he talks about him. He says, Maharaj Marutta is one of the greatest emperors of the world. He reigned over the world long before the reign of Yudhishthira Maharaj. And he was the son of Avikshit. And he was a great devotee of the son of the sun god known as Yamaraj. He was a devotee of whom? He was a devotee of Yamaraj. Who is Yamaraj? Yamaraj is Suryaputra. He is the son of the sun god. Now his brother Samvarta was a rival priest of the great Brihaspati, the learned priest of the demigods. So he came and he conducted one sacrifice called a Sankara Yajna, by which the Lord was so satisfied that he was pleased to hand over to him the charge of a mountain peak of gold. A golden peak of mountain was given to him. So this peak of gold is somewhere in the Himalaya mountains, and the modern adventurers may not find it. It's not visible to them. But he was so powerful, this Marutta, in that day and time, that he performed a great sacrifice, and the demigods from other planets like Indra, Chandra, Brihaspati, they all came. And because of the gold peak at his disposal, so much gold was there in his possession to perform the sacrifice. How opulent was it? The canopy of the sacrificial altar was completely made of gold. And in his daily performances of the sacrificial ceremonies, some of the inhabitants of Vayuloka were taking care of the cooking ceremony. They would come and work as cooks from Vayuloka. So generally Vayu, he is very fond of eating everything, devouring everything. We have Vayuputra Bhima, who was very fond of eating, and Hanuman also, who was a performer of Herculean tasks. So these inhabitants from Vayuloka, they were invited to expedite the cooking work for the ceremony. And the assembly of the demigods in the ceremony was also led by Vishwadevas, who was the big, the gods of the different directions. So like this, this Marutta, he performed a great sacrifice, and as a result of the performance of the great sacrifice, what happened? All kinds of diseases vanished from the jurisdiction of his kingdom. So that's why when great kings perform sacrifices, they actually benefit the entire kingdom. Okay, that is the goal behind them performing sacrifices. And all the inhabitants of the higher planets, like the Devaloka and Pitraloka, they were also pleased with his very wonderful performances. And this Marutta, he had so much gold that every day he would give charity to all the learned Brahmanas. He would give them beds, conveyances, and lots of gold. And in fact, Indra was also very pleased with him. And this Marutta, he acquired so much piety that he remained a young man throughout his life, though he ruled over the world for thousands of years. He was very happily situated. He satisfied his subjects. He had his ministers, his wife, his sons, his brothers, and so on. And Lord Krishna was also very pleased with him. And he handed over his only daughter, Marutta, he handed over his only daughter to Maharishi Angira, and by his good blessings, he was elevated to the kingdom of heaven. So he wanted to offer the priesthood of his sacrifices initially to Brihaspati. He wanted Brihaspati to be the priest, but Brihaspati refused to be the priest of Marutta's sacrifice because he was thinking Marutta is, after all, a mere human being. And Marutta felt very bad about this. But then Narada Muni gave him perfect advice, and Narada Muni told, you take Samvarta and you make him the priest, and that way you'll be successful in your mission. So he takes the help of Samvarta and he performs the sacrifice very, very successfully. So why are we talking about this? Because gold is available there. Okay. So he performed the sacrifice, and the remaining gold, he used as much as needed. The people took as much as needed. But then there was plenty of gold remaining, and that gold was later used by Yudhishthira Maharaj. And there is one thing Prabhupada mentions, that in the age of Kali, such sacrifices are actually forbidden because we don't have qualified brahmanas or proper ingredients in this age of Kali. But there is one sacrifice that is highly recommended, which is the Sankirtan Yajna, the chanting of the holy names, as inaugurated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So we have huge purports of 34, 35, 36. We'll stop here. I think Kirtida Mataji won't be happy, but it's okay. We'll make her unhappy. I think she will cover 34 until 36 and also start the 13th chapter in the next class. Okay, we'll end here. Any questions, thoughts, comments, corrections, please? Okay, so if there are no questions, we will end the call and go to bed early today.
Mataji, I have one, not
Yes.
question, but related to all the exams that we have given so far. Has those been graded already?
Yeah, they are grading it. Yes.
Oh, they are grading it. Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
But we'll get back to you with the scores as soon as possible. Okay. We are keeping track of it. It will come soon. Yeah.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. Sorry, I just have a little, I mean, I know it, but don't know it also. So the sages would keep the name of the person because they will upfront know the qualities of a person. But like Parikshit Maharaj was called as Parikshit because he was examining. So I know in the home also he was little curious to know the personality who has saved him. But then did he started examining the things right after the birth? And if it was like little while, then what was his name before that?
I think there is a day when the name is given after the child is born. When is the name giving ceremony done? Different Varnas, they have different timings when the name giving ceremony is done. Some are given in 11 days, some are given in maybe a month. I don't know exactly which day. Krishna, we know, right? When was he given the name? 3 months. or 10 days. I don't remember. No, not 10 days. It should be a little more because Gargamuni, he comes and he gives the name for Krishna. So there is a timing depending on one's varna. For Brahmanas, it is at one point. For Kshatriyas, it is at one point, like that.
Yeah.
There is a ceremony done, but it is generally done, within a few months at least when the child is born. So there is no name for the child. We just say, oh, Kana, oh, little baby, whatever. That's all.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mataji.
And
Mataji,
Kana is always
Mhm.
Kana, universal name.
I
Yes.
read regarding Kshatriyas, 100
Mm.
days. 100 days are
Okay.
them. Yeah. So 100th day was Vasudeva was worried. That's why he sent
Ah,
Gargacharya before 100th day was over. That's what I read somewhere. I
correct.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Every Varna has a different day. Same thing
Yeah.
even for the naming ceremony also. Also for the Punya Vachanam, they don't know. What is that? The umbilical cord cutting. Everything depends on Varna. They have certain sets of days that you have to wait and then do something like that. Okay. So then we'll end here. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Anantakoti, yes, Satyam Prabhu, please go ahead.
Sorry, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Mataji, I had just one question. So in one of the purport, it was mentioned like Kali is compared with the four things where Kali resides. The second was omen. So how, if someone says, how should we explain it to someone?
Now, what's that?
If someone says like, hey, see this, what does it mean? Like how we can explain?
Oh, yeah. So we only explain it in terms of illicit relationship, Prabhu.
Okay.
Like, overindulgence in anything in a wrong way. That's all. Later, in the future chapters, those verses itself will come and they will explain very nicely. And then alternate spots are given for Kali. He's not satisfied with these four places. So he's given gold, for example. Then people will argue, oh, you can't wear gold. Gold is considered actually to be beneficial. People should wear gold. But then the idea is excessive wealth. It indicates excessive wealth. Going towards greed and accumulating wealth. So everything will have a meaning, and we will read those verses in the future class. Okay. So we can end here. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhyeva patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavanda ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.